Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign in protest rather than lend my name or authority to decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership team resigned. Following those departures, the board made the decision to issue WARN Act notices and proceed with a mass layoff. Stephen Sharif, founder and creative director of Ashes of Creation, seemingly the latest in a long line of MMORPGs that have crashed and burned. What's going on? Why is it so dang hard to get an MMORPG out the door? And where do we go from here? Hello, everybody. It's your boy Jmulls, and we have a lot to talk about. Making an MMORPG is really hard. It requires a bunch of time, a bunch of money, a bunch of talent, a bit of luck, a great understanding of not only video games as a medium, but also the MMORPG scene specifically. But you're also going up against giant titans of the industry. Big names, big games that are continually updated, people have a sunk cost fallacy with, they've investment for, they love those games, and you're asking a lot of those people to try to move away from the games that they've been playing for years and years, they're comfortable with, they know and love, to try out your game as an experiment, and maybe it will be good enough to where people will stick around, because who wants to play a dead MMORPG? Let alone what company or investment group wants to support an MMORPG that is not able to sustain a large enough player base. Because yes, making these games are expensive, but supporting these games after launch is also very expensive. You have to get basically everything right, and failure to do so leads to this. I think for a lot of people, the writing was kind of on the walls for Ashes of Creation. A lot of people kind of expected this game to fail at some point in the future. We've been hearing about it for over 9 years at this point. That is a lot of time to hear about something and for it to not even be fully out. People will eventually just get bored of hearing the same thing and being told they're supposed to be hyped and excited for a game that just never seems to come around to actually release. And like, I can understand why this game garnered so much hype and adoration back in the day. Remember, this came out over 9 years ago. This trailer for MMORPGs, this looked absolutely stunning, and it still looks absolutely gorgeous for MMORPGs. I think in a lot of ways, they had a really good visual style to them, and it was one of the things that drew a bunch of eyes to this game to begin with, because people still, at the end of the day, want a world to be lost in, to be invested in, to see grow and develop over time, and to just have that sheer sense of adventure. And when you have a game that looks as pretty and gorgeous as Ashes of Creation, you almost want to get lost in these environments, in these locations. You want to get lost and invested in this world. And that's what Ashes of Creation had going for it for so long. And then you would actually see gameplay for the game. And in a lot of ways, it looked like an MMORPG. And if you like the genre and you're interested in the genre, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the spell effects look pretty good. The animations look okay. And when the game allows you to do stuff like this, people go, yeah, this looks interesting. I kind of want to try this out. Yeah, it looks a bit rough, but you have to remember, this is pre-alpha footage for a newly announced MMORPG that was early in development all the way back in 2017. But I think this is also one of the fatal flaws Ashes of Creation had going for it, and one of the things that eventually led to its downfall. This is a trailer from 2017. The year right now is 2026. This game's still not out. I get it. I think a lot of people also get it. MMORPGs take a long time to develop, and when you can even have something look as cool as this, or have as much potential as this looks right now, Father Time is undefeated. If you simply take too long, the medium will move on, interest will move on, eventually people will be beaten over their head with the name for so long, and they'll just stop caring. They'll just go, oh yeah, I heard about that game 6, 7, 8 years ago. Nothing ever really came from it. I stopped caring about it. So whenever you hear about it or hear new news about the game, you almost trivialize it because it's just like, oh yeah, that game again. I don't particularly care anymore. And I think that's a shame that can happen, but it's also understandable. So many new games come out all the time, not just in the MMO scene, because that one's a little bit more rare, but there's so many great games that come out all the time, especially if you care about a living, breathing world that is iterated and built up over time with new updates. There's a bunch of other games outside of just MMORPGs RPGs that can now provide a similar experience to that. So there's far more competition in the market targeting people that want this kind of gameplay, that want this overall world feel. It's not unique to MMORPGs anymore. That's kind of the reality of the situation now. You also have to think of it from a business perspective. This game being marketed, invested in for over 9 years. At what point is it no longer worth the investment? Especially when the most popular video on your channel is from 5 years ago. For a new game, I don't think that's necessarily a sign of optimism. So at what point do you just pull the ripcord as a company? Well, I guess we got the answer to that one. It's like, yeah, when I look at the gameplay here in the early access trailer or guide from legitimately a month ago, that didn't age well. The game looks cool. It looks okay, fine. Sure, the combat and the gameplay and the input system looks a little bit clunky to me when it comes to the animations, but overall, it looks fine. But I think in a lot of ways, Ashes of Creation and the vibe even this early access guide gives off is the exact issue, at least one of the main issues plaguing a lot of new MMORPGs, not even just recently, for like the last almost 20 years at this point. They focus too much on either trying to be one for one like World of Warcraft. To be fair, Ashes of Creation didn't. Or they focus too much on these new revolutionary systems that are being incorporated into this new sparkly MMORPG, and they don't give you enough reason or investment early on to care about the world itself, to make you want to explore this world fully, because they're too focused on showing, hey, look what makes us stand out compared to the rest of the medium. Look at how pretty these graphics may look. Look how many different classes and jobs we might have, or how many different playable races we might have, or look at the actual professions we have in the game. We have PvP, we have giant mobs to fight. You can build various settlements with other players and build it up and flesh it out over time to make your own city, and you can also elect other players to be the mayor of this region and have your own political system in the game if you want. Giant world PvP events where you can capture various land, giant bits of corruption that overtake parts of the map for PvE encounters with these pretty large-scale fights. See how many things we're cramming into this game? Look, we even have boats, an entire ocean to explore. Isn't that cool? You can also fish, Jeremy Wade. Let us show off what your characters can also look like. Aren't we passing the vibe check? And I think, yeah, a lot of this stuff does look pretty cool. But in a lot of ways, you're focusing too much on the interior decorating of a house instead of selling me on the house and the foundation and the structure of said house. You have a bunch of great knickknacks. You have a great stove. You have a great washer and dryer. Cool. How many rooms do we even have to begin with? Does this house look like somewhere that I can call a home? It's a subtle difference, but a lot of MMORPGs, in my opinion, mess this up. I know there's a lot of controversy right now surrounding stuff like pre-orders and backing the game to begin with, and what's going to happen to all the people that, you know, backed the game. I'm not informed on that subject, so I'm just going to keep that to the side and allow the people to talk about that are far more informed on that specific topic. I want to focus more in on the genre on the whole. MMORPGs are a very unique genre. Not only do they ask for a lot of time and commitment from the player, they ask for a lot of time and commitment from the people making the game as well. It is one of the most difficult to create and also to sustain genres in all of gaming. And I think it really goes to show just how truly special and unique games like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, how special these games can be to stand the test of time and to stay around for as long as they have, to varying degrees of success. But just like still being up and out there, that's an accomplishment in of itself. It's so hard for an MMORPG to even get to market, let alone stay there for like over 10 years. And I think a lot of MMOs over the years suffer from a couple of main pitfalls. They either try to be like World of Warcraft far too much, to where it just feels like a blatant copy and rip from World of Warcraft with maybe one or two different things about it, but it will largely feel like World of Warcraft. And if that's the case, I have Classic WoW, I have Retail WoW. If I just want World of Warcraft, I can just go play World of Warcraft. So if you're asking a bunch of people to possibly move away away from World of Warcraft, because if you make it an MMORPG, basically like World of Warcraft, you are trying to target its very player base primarily. You almost certainly aren't going to have as much content as World of Warcraft. You aren't going to have the investment World of Warcraft has built into its player base over the years. And we have seen numerous games that people have called WoW killers just end up getting killed themselves. And then you can have other MMORPGs, which I think Ashes of Creation fall under, where they try to be completely different and innovative. And I think sometimes, or even a lot of the time, they can focus on the wrong things far too much. And I think that's one of the examples of the chains that was holding Ashes of Creation back. You want to know when I wrote the game off all those years ago and stopped really caring about it? It was when they couldn't stop talking about all the open world PvP stuff. The ability to besiege other people's settlements and take it for your own. Sure, by itself, that sounds like a really interesting and innovative gameplay mechanic. I'm thinking about it as a player and I'm going, wow, that sounds really freaking annoying. So you're telling me some streamer can just come along with an army of people from his chat, just completely overwhelm my settlement and the group of people I'm with that I may or may not particularly care about and may or may not have a lot of coordination with. That just doesn't sound like a pleasurable experience to me. Stuff like player mayors, for instance, having players be in charge of these settlements and make the policies. Okay, that's cool for those people. Sure, it's cool for those people, but what about for everyone else? Either I'm beholden to a bunch of decisions I may or may not actually care about that someone else makes that could interfere with my game experience, or the role of the mayor is so inconsequential, then who cares? I just didn't see anything there that was supposed to really interest me specifically. It sounded just like a bunch of different gameplay mechanics and ideas that could work very well in like an anime based on going into an MMORPG. We'll get into that discussion a little bit here. But when you actually consider how it would work in practice in a video game, it just kind of fell apart for me and felt more off-putting than something I'm craving to find out about and experience. I think Ashes of Creation is an example of a game that puts far too much time on the interior decorating of a house instead of focusing on the foundational elements of that house. How many rooms are there? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? What's the kitchen like? Sure, you have a bunch of nice little knickknacks, a bunch of really cool antique vases that look very nice inside of the house, but if this house is being made out of just a bunch of popsicle sticks, and I'm in the middle of Tornado Valley, like these smaller details can be really interesting on the inside of the house, but the house itself is still an issue. For an MMORPG, I think some of the most important elements to a game's success are also some of the most vague. You have to have an interesting game world that people care about and want to call home. It's not just a matter of it acting like a sandbox. That's not good enough. An MMORPG is a game where you're asking a bunch of people to put a bunch of time, hours, thought, and attention into. They have to care about the world itself, not just how it operates, not just about the things you put into that game world. They need to care about the world. It needs to be viewed like a second home to them. That may sound like loser talk, but this is the joy of MMORPGs. This is the pull of the genre. You can whisk yourself away to a different fantasy world for a little bit. You have to nail this. World of Warcraft nailed this. Final Fantasy XIV nailed this. RuneScape nailed this. If you want to succeed, you have to nail this. You have to have a really satisfying core gameplay loop because of what we just talked about. You're going to be playing this game, you're asking people to play this game for hours and hours on end for years and years to come. This isn't a type of game where you put in 100 hours, you put it on a shelf, and maybe you revisit it down the line at some point. No, you are asking people, hey, I want you to care about this game and this world and this combat system so much you are willing to check into this game, possibly every day, maybe every week, for years and years to come. If they don't enjoy the gameplay, if it's not rock solid, if it isn't responsive, if it isn't enjoyable, if it isn't in-depth enough, if it isn't flashy enough, if it isn't fun enough, then it won't work. It doesn't need to be the most mechanically complicated system in the entire world. RuneScape exists. It just needs to feel good. World of Warcraft nailed this back in 2004, and it's one of the principal reasons it's still around. When I look at some of the Ashes of Creation gameplay over the years, yeah, it was always in development. There are some parts that looked kind of interesting. It did look like it was very choppy though, as if something wasn't sitting right. There's a lot lot of people out there that aren't going to be able to put their finger on exactly what those issues are with a game's combat system. They'll just be able to go, I like this or I don't like this. This looks interesting. I want to play even more of this. If you can't pass the vibe check, people will just go to other games in the genre that do. This is one of the biggest issues so many games have had over the years. Oh yeah, this game, it's pretty fun, or it's not that good. I'll just go back to World of Warcraft regardless though, because it just plays better. I'm more familiar with that. I care more about Azeroth. You have to nail these things. You don't have to be perfect in everything. Lord knows World of Warcraft has never been a perfect game. It has always had massive issues with it, but it gets right consistently the important things that it needs to get right. And I think for a new MMORPG, you can try to be innovative if you want. You can try to be formulaic if you want, and traditional to the genre if you want. The important things you have to nail though, good gameplay, story and storytelling is secondary. You have to nail the world. People have to care about your game world. They want to get lost in it. You have to let them get lost in it. It's not just a matter of giving them a whole bunch of activities, let you shift and change the game world itself. Give them structure, but give them freedom to explore. Let them go out on an adventure. Let them feel like they're watching shows about being lost in an MMORPG like in Sword Art Online. That's the feeling a lot of people want out of an MMORPG. And especially in today's market, there's a lot of other games out there, not just MMORPGs, that can allow people to care about a world that is developed over time. And there's going to be a lot of them that can be really cheap. Some of them are free to play. There is a lot of steep competition out there right now. And I think that's one of the other issues Ashes of Creation ran into. When it was announced 9 years ago, and it was getting those trailers, and it was getting that hype, and it was getting those eyes put on it. That was 9 years ago. There's far more competition that came out during those 9 years. This is a hard industry to crack into. It's so dang hard. But I love MMORPGs, and I want to see the genre thrive, and I want to see it grow. But more often than not, we see so many games, so many potentially great ideas in game worlds, sometimes not even go off the beaten path. They just stray off of it a little bit, but it's enough to derail the entire thing. There's not any one blueprint I think a game has to necessarily subscribe to fully in order to succeed. You have to be your own thing. You can't just be World of Warcraft. You can't just be Final Fantasy XIV. You can't just be RuneScape. Those games exist. They're going to do that better than you. You have to do your own thing, but at the same time, you have to understand what needs or should change, but also what should still feel familiar. And it's hard, man. It's really dang hard, but that's just the reality of the industry. You know, the more I think on it, the name Ashes of Creation's kind of fitting, huh? But here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what your favorite MMORPG ever was. Was it World of Warcraft? Was it RuneScape? Was it Final Fantasy XIV? The Star Wars Old Republic game? Guild Wars 2? EverQuest? Eve? What was your favorite? And also, what was your favorite memory from that game? I would love to hear your thoughts and hear your stories. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And speaking of World of Warcraft, there's some pretty interesting reveals that they just, well, revealed for 2026. I think the next expansion, Midnight's looking pretty dang good, people. Want to find out more? You should check out this video right here. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.